1916, Der Unbekannte Krieg is an intriguing, intense first-person horror adventure game developed by Kriegsgraben und Stormvogel, a Danish student development team of 12 members. The game's premise is straightforward. You are a World War II veteran soldier who must locate the ladder. Simple, right? Yeah, the only problems are the tight maze of trenches, gas, and an unrelenting adversary that wants to devour your spleen, or possibly your liver. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Jurassic Park meets Battlefield. It is an indie game about a soldier who is lost in the trenches amidst a battle in World War I. Even though it takes place during a war, it's unlike anything we've seen in previous war-themed games. Instead, the player is befuddled and bewildered, clinging to a sliver of hope and set to encounter death's harbinger, which is dinosaurs. Velociraptors, to be precise. Find de Leiter, or Find the Ladder. You start in a trench with a blood-stained sheet of paper with a hurried German scribble and a ladder drawing. As a result, we begin our quest for this enigmatic ladder in the monochromatic trenches. Even though it takes place during wartime, it is unlike anything we've seen in previous war-themed games. Instead, the player is befuddled and bewildered, clinging to a sliver of hope, and set to encounter death's harbinger, which is a dinosaur. Although the world has been overrun by dinosaurs and other horrifying monsters, 1916 isn't about battling extinct beasts, a doomed soldier, or shooting firearms until the war is finished. It's all about the fear factor. You'll wander through these ditches, encountering corpses, each of which you may interact with by removing bits of their flesh that you'll need later to defend yourself. It's really a terrific approach to illustrate to the player how human life is handled with little respect in such dire circumstances, even from a horror standpoint, as everyone attempts to live. Aside from the main menu, you'll come across notes that are all written in German, exactly like the rest of the game. To maintain the game's authenticity, though not collectibles, they add more to the game as the connection to real-life warfare gets deeper. The mood is formed by the dreary and dark colors, and the result gives it a retro atmosphere. Now, I must confess that raptors hunting you in such a setting seems like one of the oddest gaming combos imaginable, but you'll be astonished at how successfully the game pulls it off. And as bizarre as it sounds, they genuinely seem like they belong in this universe. The raptors seem mechanical at first. However, they fit nicely, and you'll be dreading the cries and quick ways to deal with the raptors that I'll leave up to you to figure out. The raptors seem mechanical at first. However, they fit nicely, and you'll be dreading the cries and quick movements up ahead as you journey through the 5 distinct places. Although there are other ways to deal with the raptors that I'll leave up to you to figure out, I'll just say the game takes more of a run-and-hide strategy. As previously said, the goal of the game is to locate the ladder in order to escape. Though you may get lost in the trenches at first, this is a game that requires you to remember the signs and pathways followed. While there is a map, it isn't collectible, and you'll have to be on your toes because if you fail, you're back to square one. Although some individuals may be legitimately bewildered when they first start the game, less narration and instruction might be a beneficial thing because it offers the player opportunity for exploration and other things. While there is an appreciation for the minimalist approach, it eventually affects gameplay at first. However, there will be no more worry afterwards. There is also a time in a game when you must collect a crucial item to progress, and the sensation of twisting trenches and having to memorize your route heightens the tension because after you acquire this stuff, 2 raptors will begin running after you, making it a nerve-wracking event. The reason I say this is because the game demands you to remember your journey, and backtracking will almost certainly be necessary as you try to locate what you need to keep moving forward. or discover the perfect path that will get you closer to the ladder. I don't want to give out any spoilers. So let's talk about the other elements of the game. Because of the fear it can instill in its players, this game is instantly compared to Amnesia: The Dark Descent. 1916 requires a replay in the dark with headphones on to get the full experience. The game design takes care of the rest. In terms of atmosphere, the game is spot on. You'll be very taken by the visual design. The visuals certainly drag the game down at times, but the genuine black and white, grainy look contributes to the game's gloomy mood. The first-person perspective and lack of a HUD only adds to this, allowing the player to fully immerse himself in the scene. If a game is intended to scare its players, sound design is one of the most critical aspects to consider. This game, like Amnesia: The Dark Descent, alternates between two phases of play. Basically, you'll be able to hear your heartbeat over the rain as you go through the maze-like claustrophobic trenches, as you visit each new location and progressively figure out how to get out of this hellhole. Quieter periods build suspense. On your excursions, you'll come across some stranger sights, and those who are truly engrossed in the game will undoubtedly see more as their minds play tricks on them. Then, with a flip of a switch, the game shifts to desperation as you dash away from the danger lurking around every corner. Any attempt to keep track of where you're going and where you've been will vanish, along with your sense of self-control. Your sole goal is to escape the present danger. The feel of the game is quite excellent. Although it isn't flawless, the game's attention on immersing you in the body of this wounded soldier is commendable. The way the character walks and dashes adds a lot to the game's character, the player's immersion, and the sensation of terror if the situation calls for it. Instead of having an inventory, the player must glance down to his belt to see what they have: a flare or two, and maybe a handful of rounds if you're lucky. These small details give the game a more realistic feel, and they become the game's most notable aspects. Many users have expressed frustration with their inability to figure out what to do, with some even asking for a tutorial. Any more assistance applied to the player would detract from the game's effect. Working things out on your own is an important part of the experience, and the fact that the game throws you directly into the fire is no accident. The player is assaulted at their weakest point when they are still figuring out how to use the controls and what to do. The game's makers do not want you to be at ease at any point. Therefore, this frequently cited flaw is actually a really superb design. When you first start the game, it displays a list of controls for things like flares, your gun, or even a gas mask. It sounds reasonable, but none of this is available to you right away. One of the controls instructs you on how to take flesh, but there's no clue as to why you'd need or want to do so. You'll eventually come across these various items, including flesh, which involves ripping a hand or a foot off a fallen soldier, as you explore, and they're all supposed to help you avoid or escape the dinosaurs. But you'll have to experiment and die a few times before the effects of each item become clear. Flares are used to stop dinosaurs from moving. If you put one on the ground between you and the dinosaur in a narrow trench, the dinosaur will not move until the flare is extinguished. This effect allows you to flee for a few seconds.
This is probably going to be my final attempt. I kind of have a general idea.
To distract dinosaurs, throw human flesh torn from corpses by holding the E key on the ground. They'll lose interest in you and eat on the flung limb. You can fire dinosaurs with the rifle. You won't injure or kill them, but firing on them will force them to recoil for a brief while, allowing you to sneak past them. Your health is indicated by your field of view, and you may take 4 hits from a dinosaur before dying. As you take more damage, your visibility decreases, and the camera begins to bob more crazily. Your health regenerates if you go long enough without receiving damage. Because you can't kill dinosaurs, you'll have to sneak past them, or flee from them using the many gadgets at your disposal. Once they notice you, they are very ruthless and relentless, and you only have so much stamina to sprint, so you'll need the stuff to get through the trenches. The climax has its own effect, which is worth battling through the horror and bewilderment. Some players may find the game to be cheap and cheesy for a reason that becomes clear shortly. Apart from that, there is one item that will leave you with a highly unforgettable experience that has the ability to truly scare you. To put it another way, when you confront the ghost of your jail, you will have a real-life feeling as if you are truly in that trench. In this gaming experience, focusing on making the playable character feel genuine pays off, and the distinctive design and approach will appeal to any horror game lover. Marvelous Gamer's Verdict. 1916 is a game that blends a frequently researched, awful period in our history with the very last thing you'd ever anticipate in such a setting, even by horror standards. Even though the experience is short, there is no other game that takes a dark setting and adds what appears to be a humorous element, combining it so that, well, not a long experience. When have you ever heard of such a combination that takes the griminess and darkness of the trenches and makes them even more terrifying? Der Unbekannte Krieg, or The Unknown War, is meant to be about expressing and experiencing the agony and senselessness of war, according to the official website. Given how terrible it is to attempt to live, and how ridiculous it is to have dinosaurs in World War I suppose the game does a very decent job of it. The music that plays in the bunker, the ending sequence where you escape the dinosaurs, only to meet another unavoidable fate, the fact that you must mutilate the corpses of your fallen comrades to escape your enemy, and the various notes from soldiers to their families that you can stop to read, all contribute to the game's artistic value. So, while this game lacks classic horror aspects, and isn't that frightening, it does contain a lot of fantastic atmosphere, suspense, and anxiety. It has a really distinct idea, appearance, and feel to it, which adds to my enjoyment of it. It's definitely worth a look. If you need some fast advice, be sure to follow the indications to Claudia and the bunker, where you'll discover the rifle and a map that will assist you to figure out where you're intended to go. This game also reminds me a lot of another game called The Snowfield, another experimental student effort set in World War I trenches. Unlike 1916, which takes place in the midst of combat, the Snowfield takes place after the fight is ended, and you are trying to recover from the wreckage. If you enjoy 1916, the Snowfield is another wonderful choice. It has comparable style graphics, atmospheres, and themes. That's it for this video. If you like this video, then please do like, share, and leave your comments below. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.